Everybody, welcome back to Pyro Chat number. I have no idea. Uh, it'll be in the title. I've been really bad about making videos. I want to get better about it. Right now I'm struggling to figure out what it is I'm doing. Let's turn that down a little bit. To figure out what I'm doing, what I want to do, what I want to keep doing, what at least has some margin chance of success. So, I thought about getting into doing ACEOs. And for those of you that don't know what those are, they're like 3.5 by 2.5 baseball card size art. In fact, I even did a couple. Put them on eBay. I got a lot of good views, but even some watchers, but no purchases on it. And not that I really expected that right out of the gate, because I'm not known for it. So I can't really expect people to collect my brand new ACEO work when, just coming on the scene, And there's people that are far better established at that right now. Working on a piece right now, just to kind of give you a glance of it. I know you can't tell much from the pencil. I mean, you can make her out. What was I going to call this? An angel in the moonlit garden. Of course, moon, shack, her. This is going to be a tree kind of coming over and overhanging, little brook. This is kind of our horizon. Generally just tend to pencil in the things that I might struggle a little bit more with as I go. So I have some kind of foundation before I get going. And I thought with this one that I might use an old technique I used to do when I did Inkworks. And it's very laborious. I mean, it's basically doing a lot of leaves and not just glossing over them or scribbling or shading to kind of infer leaves. I'm actually doing the leaves, rendering them individually. And there will be a couple spots where I'll blend it to kind of make them see there's more than what there are, but it's kind of a busy look that I really like and that people in the past have really enjoyed. In fact, I sold a few, and this is before I really started selling on a more regular basis my artwork. That's when I started selling my Inkworks. I had one guy in particular, he was a collector for a while. Funny thing was, found out he was a friend of my older brother's in high school, which I didn't know at the time. At least initially, I found out later, but he just loved my work, and we both used to work in this factory, this plant. And my lunchtime, I would go into the lab and work on my art instead of eating lunch, and then I'd just have a snack later or something. And he would come in and sit down and on his lunch break and just watch me work. And he was just really fascinated by it. And I ended up getting 3 commissioned works from him. And I loved getting commissioned works from him in particular. A lot of people don't like doing commission work. I'm not going to say it's my favorite thing in the world to do. And I won't do just anything. It has to be something that's kind of in my wheelhouse. But he would kind of give me some vague, guidelines, and the rest just leave it up to my creativity, which was awesome. dial that up a little bit. Must be having a dense spot in the wood. Is it coming out? Yeah, okay. And like one, for example, he said he wanted 3 ravens in the work, and he didn't care what else, you know. And for some reason at that time, you know, I had a bug in my ear about doing a more rendering people more ethnic style people than just your typical, you know, white people kind of thing, Caucasians, whatever. I don't get hung up on a lot of PCs, so if that offends you, well, this is not the channel for you. So anyway, I just say what I say and think what I think. It's not meant to offend anybody, but if you're easily offended, you don't want to be around me. So I'm just going to leave that there. So I did this kind of, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I wanted her to have like an ethnic look, and she did kind of look like a black gal by the time I got done with her. And I really enjoyed doing that. I mean, it was just a whole different, you know, it's kind of like drawing the same thing over and over again, and you draw something different, and it's I don't know, it's just kind of fun, and you know, I don't know how to describe it. And I kind of went through a whole phase of just doing different ethnic kind of renderings at that point. People, I mean, because I was more into figures and portraits and things at that time, which I guess I still kind of am. I'm getting more into sceneries and architecture and things of that nature now, but people were always more interesting for me. And they are the most difficult. Maybe that's why I was drawn to it. I'm always pushing myself to do better. But I decided to do it in kind of like a gypsy style, and in the bayou. And this is all ink work too, mind you, and it's not an ink wash. It was all by pens, various pens. Typically back then I used your pretty straightforward micron pens. If you're not familiar with micron pens, they're, well, actually I have one right here. Little felt tip pens, see, micron. And it'll tell you what size the diameter is right at the tip. Oops, a little glare. And they're great, unless you apply a lot of pressure when you're drawing, which at the time I did. I went through so many of those things. I was so destructive to pens. My buddy hated when I would borrow his pens. I would just destroy them. Anyway, so I did that, and kind of a weeping willow. Like, you're thinking, how do you do weeping willow with ink? Well, it wasn't easy. And I'd always keep hold of my the pens that were starting to dry up or lose ink, because they were great for blending, right? You know, well, if you get those, and if you're into doing inkworks, don't pitch them. They're great for blending. It's time consuming because they don't produce a lot, but use them for like little finite blended areas, and I'm telling you, they work great for that. You just got to kind of take your time, because in addition to being faded, they're inconsistent, so you might have to work an area for a little bit and spin the pen around a little bit and get the right kind of feel that you want, the right kind of shade that you want. But yeah, I loved working on that, and he loved it when I was done. I mean, and that was a great thing. It's like, it was just a very vague guideline, and I took over from there, and that was awesome. So I went off on a whole tangent there, but anyway, with the ink work, the first one, when I did that leaf effect, I called it Too Many Leaves. It had, like, I was into a bit of an anime style back then, and I did this, you know, this anime girl, ninja-looking girl, on this pier with this kind of, it was crossed between a Chinese and a more medieval Eastern dragon. It was actually pretty cool, aquatic-looking type dragon. I was really happy with it, and it was coming out of the water behind her. She was kneeling down with her katana stabbed down into the wooden pier. And I put this old, I don't know what they call them, but the little Chinese, Asian style palaces in the background. And I kind of wrapped it all in like leaves and bushes and stuff and left it open right over here where I had like some clouds in that palace. And with the exception of the anime style girl, I still really love that work. Not as much into anime anymore. And honestly, back then I thought it was really good, the anime girl that I did. But there's a lot of people can do far better because, it's not really where my heart is. So that's what I'm going to do with this piece. But I went totally off track of talking about the ACO cards. I don't think that's where my heart is. And that's where this piece is going to be very interesting because it's where my heart is presently mixed with where my heart used to be with my inkworks and that leaf effect. People would look at those old leaf works that I did and they would just be stunned. And they because it's the kind of piece, it's very intricate, and even if you're not an artist, you can look at it and you can see the amount of love and time and attention to detail that went into it. There was a lot of work, and even a non-artist can see that. I mean, it's kind of hard not to. And I always heard the same thing. There's no way I would have the patience to do that. How, you must be a very patient person. I'm like, well, no, I'm not. Not a patient person at all. Just ask my kids or my wife. I said, but with this, I don't know. It's a labor of love, and not that I don't love my wife and kids, but it's just something that I'd rather it didn't take as long as it does. But it's like having a family, raising your family. You get mad at your kids, and sometimes even mad at your spouse. You get impatient or whatever, but you love them and you're patient with them as best you can be. And that's like, artwork's kind of the same thing. So it's a labor of love. You take your time and you do it right because it means something to you. And goose that a little bit more. I've been trying to figure out what to even call my stuff anymore. My more intricate pieces like this, I'm starting to put on eBay and try that out. Almost sold a work this morning, but I saw that they'd made an offer, basically offered my asking price, which was kind of strange. I think sometimes people get confused with eBay, which it can be a little confusing. But then I found that they withdrew their offer, which was kind of a bummer. But I'm not sure if it was a genuine offer anyways. It was somebody from the Philippines. That was probably why right there. Because I think my pieces are only for sale in America. Might be hurting myself by doing that. I don't know what to charge for shipping outside the country. I might have to look more into that. I mean, because I do allow that option in Etsy, and I just charge a buttload of money for shipping. And I remember when I first started doing that, I was like, nobody is ever going to pay this because, and the shipping, I mean, it wasn't like I'm trying to rob people. I kind of get an idea of how expensive it is to sell to some of the most higher cost shipping type areas like Australia or what's another one? I can't think of one off the top of my head. I knew Australia was one of them, that it can be really pricey to ship to. And so that's what I do. I just kind of find the most expensive, and I kind of charge about that much. And then if it was like like let's say I charged them $50 and it only ended up being 20. It's like, oh man, I feel bad. So I'd end up sending them a little note with a $30 refund, saying, hey, that was less expensive than what I thought it was going to be. I planned for the worst case scenario for international shipping, and really thankful that you bought my work and are supporting my art. I don't want to rob you, so here's a refund. And I've done that a couple of times. They never really respond. Probably because the kind of people that can afford to buy my art don't really care about stuff like that. Maybe they make so much money that they don't care. I don't know. Maybe they do. They just, I don't know. They're private people. Who knows? Just real happy that, in the past they've supported me. So maybe that's what I should do. Can't believe I didn't think of that till right now. Sometimes when you talk, I'm very much the kind of person, if I start talking aloud, sometimes I can think of things that hadn't occurred to me before. So, ooh, I'm getting past the camera, aren't I? Why didn't somebody say anything? Probably because it's pre-recorded. So, anyway, I keep getting diverted trying to talk about is I don't know what to call my stuff. I mean, in the past I've always called it realism. I don't want to necessarily call it fantasy. I mean, sometimes I throw it in there, but sometimes I think people get thrown off of it. Oh, it's fantasy, but some people that really aren't into fantasy, because my stuff, it's like, look at her. I mean, originally I was going to make her an elf. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to make her anything. She's just a woman with a violin, and it's something that could happen, but it has that fantasy feel. And I don't want to call it fantasy because I don't want to pigeonhole myself into just a fantasy realm where other people might look at it that don't want a hardcore, like dragons, elves, dwarves, things like that, but can admire the beauty of it and, get it anyway, the artwork. So, but then I started looking at, because some of my works, they're kind of realism, but with painting, a lot of times it's kind of, you're given the idea of trees and stuff like that, so it starts kind of creeping on towards Impressionism. Now, I am not a fine arts major by any means. I don't know a lot about it. I'm a self-taught artist, which is probably pretty clear by my artwork and spinning my canvas around. That probably, like certain fine artists, drives them insane. I don't care. I taught myself how to do it. And that's just the way it is. So, at some point, I thought it might be kind of fun to go to school for art. And just, take what I've learned, taught myself, and refine it. And, I'm sure I'll get even better. But, I don't know. That'll be later down the road. I got to get a smaller tip to do her lips. I mean, I don't know. The heat's pretty lined up now. I might be able to get this done now. Just kind of get the idea there. Yeah, there we go. No problem. I love when things work out like that. Sometimes you just have to stare at it for a while and you figure out how you're going to do it. So I don't know what to call it. I mean, is it Impressionism? Is it realism? Is it pseudo-impressionism? / fantasy? I don't know. I don't know what to call it. And I want to be real careful. I don't want to deceive people by calling it Impressionism when it's not. But at the same time, I want to be careful not to call it something that might repel people from it. So, I don't know. But if you have any suggestions, or you have a more formalized artistic background, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. Please be kind about it. But I think, at least for the time being, I'm going to take works like this, some of my more intense works, and I'm going to try them out on eBay. And my smaller works, when I'm just kind of screwing around, I'm going to try that out on, well, I'm not try them out, I'm going to keep them on Etsy. Because I've watched a couple of videos from, a couple artists, a couple guys that are on eBay. Hold on just a second. Coffee break. And their work was definitely fine art. So I thought, maybe that's what I need to do, and kind of have that separation. So I'm going to give that a try and see what happens. I thought about, spending more time getting more intense with my fine art, even if the return is not so great, and trying a couple galleries here again. I've got to stick by my guns, though, and try some galleries in some other states. I've had some discussions with some other people, some other artists, some other friends and family, and I'm coming to the conclusion that Indiana, which is, of course, where I live, is just not a great place to sell art. And I've had some people argue with me on that. But, so my most expensive pieces I've sold to Arizona, Texas, Austria, and Australia. The only time I sell anything that's worth any real amount of money here in Indiana is if it's a commission piece. And I don't mind doing commission every once in a while, but I kind of want to gradually get out of doing commission and commission works and just do my own stuff. Now, there's certain people that I'm going to call them collectors of my work, and they've supported me from the very beginning. And one guy in particular, Dave, and his wife, Jen, is it? I talk more to Dave, so, but they've been incredibly supportive of my work, and I'm forever appreciative of that, and I will always do work for them. There's a couple other people as well that have come back. They've hired me once, twice, 3, 4 times, and if they want me to do something, even if I tell everybody else, no, I'm done doing commission works, I will always do commissions for them, because they were there for me when nobody else was. They were supportive when nobody else was. So you take care of those people because they took care of you. Anyway, this video is getting kind of long. You can see where this is going. I definitely want to get back and do another video after I get a little further along with this. And I'll show you that leafy effect. And definitely get in a video going when, I got to finish her hand. Start to add some color. So, ought to be fun. So, y'all have a wonderful day. Blessings.